Hey everybody, it's your old pal Jamesy Wamesy, and I'm going to first discuss the elephant in the room. Some of you may know that I was very offended by a post in my former group, the Barry Windsor-Smith Appreciation Group. Now, the post that I was offended by was by Barry Windsor-Smith. Um, basically somebody had posted something about John Floyd, who had inked him on Rune, and he was going to ink him on Storyteller, but I believe Barry may have fired him before that. Now, you also may not know, a little over a year ago, John had passed away. He had been a good friend of mine. We had talked quite a bit online. We never met in person or anything. I don't want to give you false claims there on that. But yeah, he passed away about a year and a half ago, and Barry went out of his way to say, "What is this crap? Like, why is this artwork on here? This is even mine. Like John Floyd was a piece of crap or something like that." It was really offensive and it just way out of line. He was talking ill about the dead, and that doesn't really jive with me. I had founded that group and I had raised it to over 10,000 members. Like for real, 10,000 people joined the group. I mean, 3 years. That's pretty incredible. And since then, I handed it off to my friend Felipe Navarro. He's actually writing a book on Barry. So I figured, if I'm going to like cut ties with this guy, I'm going to give this group away. And that was about 3 months ago, and he already got 2,000 followers. That's also very impressive. But I was offended by things Barry had said in the past. Like I had posted like some of his old art from the '60s, where he was still like doing the Barry, doing the Jack Kirby influenced artwork, and I put up a quote saying like my Barry saying something about how like if you're an artist and you're influenced by somebody like Jack Kirby, eventually you move past that. And he took that to mean that I was saying he never moved past that, which is nonsense. That was like a 2 year period of like a 50-year career, longer than 50 years, really. So I was kind of offended by that. I was like, how can I really be in charge of a group when the person I'm celebrating thinks that I'm attacking him? So I was like, I'm done. And I just instantly decided I'm not going to argue with anybody. I'm just going to walk away, give the group to Philippe, and let him run it. I think that he has a vested interest in it. And just because I don't get along with Barry does not mean he's not a very talented artist or was a very talented artist, depending on what your favorite period of his career is. But, anyways, when he was talking about John Floyd, he was like attacking him, and I thought it was kind of sickening. And he was very unappreciative of his inking skills, and put him down for absolutely no reason. And that I thought that was out of line. And I talked to Michael Zulli's widow today about that because I needed somebody to vent to, and I just want to say shout out to Karen. I really appreciate you listening to me about that. But anyways, I'm done with all of that. It takes a lot to get me angry, and Barry is really successful at making me angry. I don't dislike that many people. I'd say there's probably like 5 or 6 people that I've blocked on Facebook in about 7 years. And I don't need to block Barry because he never accepted my friendship, despite me supporting him and giving him 10,000 followers. Anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about Papa Balloon and Cactus. Now, today, like all know, I like to show off the books and everything. Today, I'm gonna show you exclusively books by people that have actually worked on my book. Now, the very first one is Pariah. Now, this is by Sam J. Royale. Here's the back, and here's his info. You guys all see that there? That's Etsy shop, Sam J. Royale. I'm sure you can get a copy of Pariah. Now, check this out here. He is a very exquisite painter, and I love his artwork. He did the covers of the first issue and the Christmas special. and I really think you guys should check him out and check out his Etsy shop there. Here's another awesome page. Look at those reds. That's really really beautiful stuff. Once again, that's Sam J Royale. So check him out. He's really awesome. I would love to work with him again someday. Now, after Sam, I'm going to show you some more Jeffrey Manley again. You remember Jeffrey? He did Riley the Teenage Bigfoot. Okay, let me actually read to you the back of this little book here. It says, Jeff J. Manley is a cartoonist best known for his webcomics Terror Bads and Punching the Clock and Treasure Hunter. But Jeffrey Manley is also known for going to any event that will have him and drawing customers whatever they want. And me mean whatever. The secret to drawing someone's favorite character and keeping the customer happy is the little details of the drawing. There are certain things that have to be drawn on a character or else the drawing will just seem off. And that is where a cartoonist will go to Google or to a comic book that the customer may have brought with him for reference to make sure the characters look exactly right. Well, Jeff wondered what would happen if he drew characters with no reference. Just drew them from the details stored in his pop culture cluttered brain. How off would they look? Would they even look anything like what they should look like? You will find inside drawn from memory. Or you will find out inside drawn from memory. Or maybe you won't find out. Maybe your memory of these characters is just as fuzzy as Jeff's was. Well, I think that's a pretty interesting premise. I'm going to, once again, just turn to a random page, hold it up, and let's see how he did. There we go. I believe that's Clayface and the Joker. Let's go to another page here. Is that Gizmo? I think that might be Gizmo. I'm not sure who the girl is, but I don't think that's on Jeff. I think that's probably on me. I'm just not as familiar with certain characters as others. Here's another mixed bag here. Here's Iron Man and some guy with glasses. I wonder if there's a key in the back for anyone who doesn't know. Let's see. Yeah, there is a content page here. I'll flash that up for a second. You guys can freeze frame if you're interested to see what's actually in this book. I don't think he has any copies right now of this particular book, but you should still check out his stuff. Let me see if he has any of his information on here. Now I don't see it, but just look up Jeffrey Manley and you'll find him. I mean, there's only so many Jeffrey Manleys that are going to have an art credit to their name. Just look him up on Google. Here's another book by him. This has 4 short stories with all ages stories in it. This was only $6. That's amazing. You can't find anything for $6. Like my comics are $7, and this is at least 64 pages, if not more. Now here we go. Like I said, this has 4 stories. He's very good with the digital tones there. I believe those are digital. If not, then I apologize. I believe this is actually the first appearance of Riley, but I don't think he was named yet. But Bitey was named. That's kind of like his sidekick that sometimes appears. So check out Minnie, and of course check out Riley the Teenage Bigfoot, one of my favorites. He was actually the very first guest that I had in the comic book. He was in issue number 1, and I believe he was the only person that I had published at that time. So and he basically put together a 4-page greatest hits of Riley thing. Okay, and since then that aspect of the book has blown up pretty much. Now let's see what else I have here. This is a fake edition, like I guess it's a silver edition of Cerebus the Aardvark by Dave Sim. Now, Cerebus was a big part of my growing up. I remember I even gave a speech about Dave Sim in high school. You know, we had to give a report on who our heroes were. And by that point, Dave Sim was kind of a champion of the independent comic scene, and I really wanted to celebrate that. And I don't remember what I said, but I'm sure I was passionate, you know. But yeah, let me try that out again. I believe he has a Kickstarter going right now. I'll put that in the links there in the description of this video. Well, that's for the YouTube viewers. You guys on TikTok, you're on your own. I'm sorry. All right, so that was issue two that he actually did. He did a variant cover, and that sold out. I actually have one solo copy, and it's actually signed by David. I'm not getting rid of that. I'd like to keep that. I do have the original artwork, but it's hanging on my bedroom wall, and that's actually to that side of my studio. All right, then I actually okay. Well, let me talk about some people whose stuff I don't have. One is Jerk Comics, also known as Roman Rathard. He is a really talented inker and really great at imitating an artist's style and just capturing their work in the ink form and then basically making originals to sell. He's a really great guy. He is very knowledgeable. He has a video on the Max. He actually has 5 videos on the Max, like on his YouTube channel. He's way more successful than this channel will probably ever be. Um, if you're interested in knowing about Sam Keith, he is like the world's greatest expert as far as Sam Keith information goes. He doesn't have all the answers, but he'll do his best to get you those answers. He also that actually follows through to all things comic booky. He uh, he was actually flown. I think that that Mike Allred lives in Las Vegas. I might be mistaken, but he was flown wherever he lives to take part in the documentary that took place last year. I think it was released, or else the preview just came out. But check that out. He's a really great guy. He he was tasked with writing for the Christmas special, just writing whatever he wanted to, just try to keep it on a Christmas theme, just for that issue. Usually, I don't even give that loose of a guideline, but in that case, he told me he's very anti-Christmas. He has very bad memories of that time of year, and if I could possibly like you know let him stretch his imagination, and I said no problem. Let's see what you come up with. And what he came up with was a story of Jack Kirby being treated well by DC Comics towards the end of his life. They basically gave him royalties on the superpowers action figures that he designed, and you know how often does that really happen? Like I believe it was Jeanette Kahn, or is that Karen Berger? I forget which one is. I guess it would be Jeanette Kahn, right? Her and oh, I forget his name at this point. I'd have to reread his story. But they really hooked him up and really took care of him as best as they could. I guess they realized how much DC could have done for the guy, which they really didn't, unfortunately. And that goes for all the big corporate companies. I don't want to go off on a rant, but there's a reason I believe in self-publishing and not compromising your vision, even if it's a silly book about a balloon and a cactus, you know. All right, then we have. That's right. Well, let me think of somebody else who I don't have their material. Is Amelia Trimpe, who's actually Herb Trimpe and Linda Fite's daughter. They have they have 2 daughters and a son together, and I believe there's another daughter from another marriage, but I've never spoken to her. I do somehow I get along with all the kids. You know, I don't speak to them that frequently, but they're really nice people. And anyways, I asked Amelia to just write about the old days and everything, you know, comic related growing up with her, with Herb Trimpe as a father. And she gave me a nice 4-page mini memoir kind of thing where she basically talked about getting like a present from Flo Steinberg, and not really thinking that Flo Steinberg is really anybody, but as we all know, she's pretty important to the history of Marvel Comics. And she said that she would go to the Halloween parties of Bernie Wrightson and his wife, and not realize that not all kids are going to Bernie Wrightson's on Halloween, and experiencing all that, which is pretty mind blowing for somebody like me who is into the whole comic book thing. But like I said, she wasn't into the whole comic book thing, or maybe I didn't say that. Maybe I should probably establish that. Yeah, she was not interested in comics, despite who her parents were and what they did for a living. So eventually, she like he worked for GI Joe, drawing GI Joe comics and designing some of the characters and stuff. And they would send action figures like to Herb to use as reference for the comic books. And he would basically open up the packages, give his kids like basically free GI Joes, so that they had pretty much had everything, and he would just use like the card information on the backs pretty much as reference. And there's plenty more in her issue, which was I believe issue number 2. So yeah, check them out. That's really awesome. Then let me show you. This is Terry S. Wood. This is Wandering Star. Let me put it sideways so you get the full effect there. I'm a big fan of Terry's. She is one of my favorite 90s creators. I've got, I think, issues 1 through 12, or maybe I'm missing a couple in between there, of her series, which I believe was 20 or 21 issues. The first half was self published, which, as you may know, that is my thing. I love self published stuff. The 90s was my period. Like, there's other people that consider the 90s like the Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, and like the Image Comics boom. I kind of think of all the independent people and how great they were. I think of Terry. I think of Mark Hempel and Mark Wheatley, whose names who will come up later as I show you stuff that people have worked on related to my book. But as you saw on the cover there, that's a really unconventional cover for a comic. And that's why I like self publishing. You can basically take all the risk and put everything on yourself. And despite a cover like this, Terry was very successful, and that was a legend of the 90s. Here's issue 2, I believe. Yep. No, this is actually another copy of number 1. I actually have 2 of that one. So there's that. Here's 2. See, she kept that theme going. There's 2, 3. You get the idea. She stuck with that for quite a while there. All right, now here's 7. Let's see. There's 9, I believe. Yeah, that's 9. Now, I was wondering why she switched up, but at issue 11, it's still self-published, but she decided to go in another direction with the covers. I don't know if it was because there was the boom, or the boom had crashed at that point, and the indie scene had pretty much died. Like, people like Jeff Smith were headed to Image Comics. Strangers in Paradise with Terry Moore was briefly, I believe, published at Image. I think it was only briefly. I'm not sure how long it was there. But yeah, starting there, she went to Sirius, and I believe this might be her second issue there. I'm missing a gap there in my collection. But yeah, that's a more straightforward cover. But I think that she might have stuck with those abstract covers if she had just if she had just continued self-publishing. But I think since she saw that there was just trouble afoot, she basically made that move. Now, I have yet to finish that series. You know, I got some gaps in my collection, but I would really love to. Now she was in issue number 4, and she actually brought Wandering Star back in a little flashback sequence. So there's a 4-page Wandering Star like appearance in one of my comics. So that's something that not everybody can say, which is pretty freaking awesome. All right. Well, then I think in issue number 6, yeah, it was number 6. I actually got Mark Wheatley, who wrote this book, and it was drawn by Mark Hamill, I believe. No, I'm pretty sure. I'll have to take a look at the interior after this video. But this was, I believe, a Comic Con exclusive, or it might have been a Kickstarter exclusive, when they were releasing Breathtaker. And I believe this is has an excerpt from Breathtaker. Speaking of which, here's my old copy of Breathtaker. There is a new copy out there. You can find this, I'm sure, even on Amazon or pretty much anywhere you buy your books. And this is like basically a legendary 90s book. So find a copy of Breathtaker, add it to your collection. Uh, yes, Mark Wheatley worked alone on my book, and he basically did like almost like a pulp throwback. It really feels like the old 1930s kind of pulp stuff, but with way better art. You Have you ever seen his stuff reminds me of Richard Pace. His black and white work is very detailed, very beautiful stuff. Highly recommended. And then speaking of cool things I had published in the back of my book was Too Much Coffee Man. This is Shannon Wheeler. Here's the back of the book, if anyone's curious. Now he basically, I asked him, can I run some of your modern material in the back of my book for an issue, and for a small amount of money, I made that happen. So there is an issue. I believe it's number 5, or it might be the color special. I forget which one that was in. Now here's the interior. He does work for the New Yorker now, like doing their political cartoons. He's one of the many staff artists on there, so that's really cool. I get to say that Too Much Coffee Man is loosely associated with my book. Then I've got a let's see. All right, here you go. This is Tess by Tess Fowler. You might know Tess. She worked on some, I believe, some image books in the past there. Now this one is actually signed by her and her husband, Chris Gutierrez. Both of them have actually worked on my book technically because they did a 4-page preview for Tess's memoir, and really good stuff. Really sad and very deep. A lot of horrible stuff that women go through, and it was really disheartening. But it's really really good and really worth a read. I don't believe it's found a publishing house yet, but if you want a 5-page preview, check out my book. I'll hook you up. I'll make it happen. Just get with me. You know how to contact me. My email is jimeato, JIMEATO at gmail.com, and I'll work something out there with you there, and we'll get copies into people's hands. But let me show you some of the interior. I was very surprised. I believe I ordered the diaries of Tess Fowler, but they accidentally sent me like an art book, which is totally fine. I'm very happy with what I got. But sometimes there's some hiccups along the way. Here we go. Here's her Scarlet Witch. I just think her artwork is incredible. If you want to see a memoir in that style, if that's your kind of thing, I would go for that. Here we go. There's a nice, beautiful gothic girl. Here's Red Sonja. Yeah, but yeah, check that out. Check her out. She's fantastic. Let me see if there's contact info on there as well. The back is blank. All right, TessFowler.bluesky.social and Chris Gutierrez www.bluesky.social. So check them out. Check out their work. All right, then I've got Skade. This is by Rob Walton. Let me show you these. These are mostly prose. Well, you know what prose looks like, so I won't do that. But let me. I believe there's some illustrations in these. This is book 4. I know that I've read the first one, so I know that there's some illustration in there by the great Charles Vess. This was actually he did the covers as well. If you check out the covers. Now, when he was doing the Book of Ballads and Sagas, he actually had Rob Walton like create Skade for that. Skade is like a young female warrior girl, like basically just wandering around, like I believe it's in like a Viking world. So I would basically start maybe at the comic books and then go to the prose novels. I think you really get hooked by reading the actual comic book stuff. Now he just did a pinup for me. He did a Galactus. You remember the Galactus pinup? He did one of it was like a Galactus cactus, which was pretty funny and coincidental. It was like I believe he had ran that like in a previous comic of his. He's known for doing Ragmop, if you remember that series from the '90s. And yeah, I believe that was it might have run it in there, but I think it got overlooked and forgotten by people. But it was really cool and really fit the motif of the series. All right, then I have the long time, well, I'd say long suffering member of the team here, and that is Oliver Simonson. Now, Oliver did Captain Zap. Here's one, I believe two. All right. Now, Captain Zap is a nice space adventure comic. I've actually introduced the character into the main story, and like under my drawing. Like Oliver's stories are all separate. I could never match, where he's coming from. But I've put his character as Polly, and there was the little robot. I forget his name all of a sudden. The disenchanted robot, of course. What am I thinking there? But yeah, they're really fun stuff. This was a 90s self-publishing book. This guy has worked with Mobius on jams, and he has been praised by like Dave Sim, James Kolchak, I believe. I could be wrong on that one, but he's got tons of great quotes, which you don't see on a lot of books from that period, but he had them all. Here's another Captain Zap. Now, I think this is one of my favorite covers. It's like a Stray Bullets like parody cover. For some reason, I always think of the movie Pulp Fiction when I see this cover. Maybe it's the whole dodging bullets thing. I just think of a crime drama that, when I think of that. All right. Now, some upcoming people. These people have not been in the book yet, but are slated to make appearances in the series. One of them, you may have seen this one before on the channel, is Straw Man by David Brandstetter. Now, he also does one called Horse and Buggy. Nice play on horse and buggy, Nice little fun book. It's kind of, I believe, an all ages kind of thing. I've done a little bit of artwork for that one, but I've also done a little bit of artwork in here. In a way, I actually wrote a story. This is actually the very first appearance of Mr. Monkey Bags, who was in issue number 5, which is sold out. So if you're interested, hit up David. He's at Dim Light Graphics. And yeah, check him out. This has got Steve Peters, who's always helped me with my campaigns, my Kickstarters. Tom Scioli, who's very famous. He did like the GoBots comics, and Godland was him. That was at Image Comics. And yeah, so I've got him lined up to do something, but I don't know what he's gonna do just yet, because I've told him straight out, just like I tell everybody, like I give zero like editorial like suggestions. I want them to basically just do anything they want to do as long as they're really expressing themselves, and they feel that their work is up to their standard. Like I'll pay them off just to give me 4 pages of something, and obviously I'll go a little over, a little under, and let's see. Oh yeah, I've got Karen Zuli. That's one of the reasons we were on the phone today. She's gonna be actually writing something for the book, and it might just be fiction prose, but we'll see about that. There's no pressure on her to write anything like in particular, but that's gonna be in an upcoming issue. I don't think that'll be in the next one, but just a heads up. But in the next one, I do have Joel Meadows. Now, he's known for Tripwire magazine, but I did find this book at Ollie's, and it's really a gem. This book basically is one of those books where they just show off people's studios, and they have little interviews in here. This is. I'm not sure who that artist is, so let me go to another artist. Once again, I don't know, but we got to keep the channel moving. Check this out. All right, then last is. Whoops, I'm sorry. All right, Quinn Rowan Dex. Now, Quinn has been in several issues. I believe she's been in 3 by now, or she might be working on her third appearance, but we're not sure what exactly we're going to do with her. She is really, really creative, really fun, but I don't have anything except for my own book that actually has her art on it. I've been like an online fan, which doesn't amount to much, but once in a while I'll throw a Kofi just to support it. I call it Kofi. I don't even know if that's the right pronunciation, if it's Kofi or coffee or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. These are basically a lot of repeat members. Sometimes people make a solo appearance, and I totally appreciate everybody who contributes. Like even if they just do a pinup or something, that's really great. I just one day, I'm not going to be here forever. No, it's true. I'm mortal, but I know that's hard to believe. But someday there's going to be somebody researching on Herb Trimpe and maybe find Amelia's article exists, and they're going to find maybe my issue on eBay or something, which is what I hope for. Or a completionist is going to be like, oh yeah, well, let me find everything by Mark Wheatley. Then they're going to find that he actually did a story in my book, and everybody also retains all reprint rights to all of the stuff that they create. They might go on to other places. That's fine. My original plan for the Amelia Trimpe thing was to have all the kids and like write another 4 pages every issue, but that fell through. I actually approached one of her sisters, whose name I'm not gonna embarrass her. She's really an awesome person, but she found a lot of trouble writing, and so I basically I just pretty much dismissed her. And with her dismissal on that, I just pretty much let the idea like pass to the wayside. You know, I just wish them well. I want them to have something. If they ever do a show or anything, they can say, "Hey, here's some new material. You can check this out. It's not much, but it's something." And I figure once they each write 4 pages, they can also expand on it, and maybe they can release a little mini book, maybe a 20 or 30 page little book. You never know. But anyway, so that's pretty much all I've got there. Let me see. I've got this is Steve Peters again. Remember he had worked on the Strawman book. This is a book that I actually did the back cover of, so I just had that handy. He has not worked on the book, but he's always helpful with the campaigns. That is actually Bill Sienkiewicz, that are based on a photograph of him, as is a lot of the art in this book. Let me see. There we go. So it's got a nice little running gimmick in the book. So check that out. I believe his Kickstarter ends tomorrow. That's what do you call Awakening Comics of Subspace Chatter, Sea Feeders, Bianca Alumar. Look them up. They really need your support. They're really close to the end of the finish line, but it's really, really stressful. So help them out. Once again, I'll put a link in the description. And that's pretty much all I have. If you guys want to talk or anything, just give me a message. You all have my email from earlier before, but if not, once again, I'll put that in the description there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.